Do you craft with calendars? It's one of my favorite ways to craft. Hey Bestie, it's Lisa. Welcome or welcome back. In this episode, we are going to craft with Dollar Tree calendars. For this Dollar Tree calendar hack video, I've got the 2024 Farm Life calendar, and I'm going to take the page that has a wreath and says, "It's fall, y'all." And I've got this little hoop that I got on Amazon, but they also have the bamboo hoops at Dollar Tree, and then this other sign from the Dollar Tree that I had in my stash, and a bunch of fall leaves that I always keep on hand whenever I buy them. I just take the extra pieces and throw them in a bag. Anyway, I'm going to use that little bamboo hoop or embroidery hoop, and I'm going to trace around it so I know what to cut out of this picture. I hate that I have to cut off those leaves, but you know what? We're going to use real or fake real leaves, whatever, not real leaves, but not paper leaves, to embellish this. So once I've got that on there, we will just go ahead and cut that circle out. And I'll actually cut a little bit around the circle. I always like to do that. I can always trim it later, just in case I needed more than I thought. Now I'm just going to pull off that handle in the back, and you can just take a little spatula of some kind. It just came right out. I'm going to take my Waverly chalk paint in the color Plaster, and I'm going to do 2 coats. I'm also going to add some orange, which is the pumpkin color, because I realized the calendar lines on the back might show, so I wanted to put something a little darker. Plus, it gives it that really nice, trim that goes with the picture. I'm going to add some more Mod Podge around the edges and just make sure this is nicely adhered. I used the wet paint to attach it. I'm not sure I would do that again. I just wanted to try it and see what would happen if I laid this down on wet paint. But I think it doesn't quite adhere as well as the Mod Podge, which is more of like a glue adhesive. So anyway, note to self, I will do Mod Podge first on the bottom and then lay the picture over the top. It was just an experiment. So anyway, now I'm going to take leaves and I'm going to start putting them around. I'm going to do different colors, shades of the leaves, and create kind of a wreath look with them. So once I get all those pretty orange and yellowish ones, I'm going to put the deeper color rust ones in there and just mix them up until it looks so interesting and beautiful. I love these colors. Now I'm going to take the embroidery hoop and I'm going to place it right over the top. I'm going to hot glue it right to the top. I just thought that gave it such a cute little funky look. You don't have to do that. This would be fine even if you didn't, but I just thought it was cute. So anyway, I thought it kind of framed the sign portion of it. And so that's how I managed to do that one. I think it's so cute. It came with a little hanger on the back that was already there, so that was perfect. I think this is adorable. It's so pretty. You could put it on your door, and you could put it anywhere you want. I think it's beautiful. Let me know what you think. Again, another Dollar Tree calendar. You can't beat that. One of the little dice from the Dollar Tree, and then I cut out some cute little calendar pictures from the back of a calendar so that you get those little boxes, and I picked all the fall ones and then a couple extra ones that just kind of go with it. And I'm going to take that white paint from Folk Art and I'm going to paint the entire cube, and this is like my base coat actually. Now I'm just deciding where I want to place each of my little square pictures, and I'm actually going to hot glue them on and go around all of the edges and make sure that it's laying as flat as possible. I probably should have trimmed them just a little smaller, and then it would have laid a little better, but I wanted so much more of the picture and I didn't want to give up any of it. So I made it work and just kind of worked a little harder with the hot glue to keep it down. Then I'm going to go over the entire cube with Mod Podge and just heavy coat of Mod Podge to fill in any little gaps. Then I am going to take some nautical rope that I actually got at Walmart, great deal if you buy it there, and I'm going to lay a piece of that rope around every square, and that's why I didn't actually need to paint the warm buff, but I decided to do this after the fact. So this is another option. You can either paint that color in between or you can use the rope. I'm loving the rope, especially for the fall. So I think this was such a great way to go, and I'm just thrilled with how it looks. Making these cute little cubes with the pictures on the side for the different seasons is such a nice piece to add to a 3-tier tray, and I love it. project, I've got a little piece of wood that I got on Amazon, but Dollar Tree has them too, a little round, and then I took a piece from the back of the 2022 calendar that I had, and I am just going to use this fabric again from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to trace that shape of the square on there, and then I will cut that out. Once that's cut, I'm going to fray the edges a little bit. I just want this to look rustic because this whole tiered tray is going to be rustic. I'm going to use my Beacon Fabric Tack glue. I will put that right on the wood, and then I will apply the little piece of fabric right on there. I'm being really careful so it doesn't stick before I want it to. That's why I'm kind of holding it up. And there we go. Just kind of push that down, make sure it's there, and then I'll trim any excess off around the edges. Then that little wood round I have, I'm going to trace that circle onto my little calendar piece. Now I end up trimming it down even more, but I needed something to work with, so I've cut it out. I'm going to take the burnt umber paint by Apple Barrel. I'm going to paint right around the edges and then the sides as well. Then I'm going to take my scissor blade and I just kind of rub your scissor blade along the edges of any paper, and it gives it a really cool distressed rustic look. Now I'm going to put some glue right on the back of that, and I'm going to put it right on my little circle. And then I did decide to put a little more of that burnt umber paint on it to distress it, but first I'm going to use my little nail file and distress around the edges. And there I am putting that right on top to distress it. I'm just going to hot glue it right on the center. It's so easy. And then I'm going to take the burnt umber and just kind of go around the edges of my board and the back. I want to make sure everything looks nice and finished. And then I'm going to take a little piece of that basket I've been using and just kind of break off a piece. I'm going to create a little frame with it. I'll just kind of measure and fold, and then I'll cut right in that spot with my miter shears, and I'll make 4 pieces and hot glue them around the edges. What an easy way to finish off a little piece of wood by giving it a little basket frame. Now I need something for this to stand on. I've got a domino from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to paint the whole thing in the burnt umber, and then I'm going to put a line of hot glue right across the middle there and set my piece on top, and this one is done. How easy and so cute. From the Dollar Tree, some pumpkins that I got at either Hobby Lobby or Dollar Tree over the last 2 years, little baby pine cones, also from either of those 2 places. The colors Fawn and Cashew from Waverly, along with plaster. I'm going to paint this entire crate, outside, inside, between the slats, top, bottom, you name it, in the color Fawn. I'm going to take the pumpkins and make sure they're neutral, so I'm going to use plaster on this particular one. I'm going to paint all the stems with the antique wax and then kind of wipe off the excess. I'm going to paint this little gourd or squash, whatever it is, in the color Cashew. And of course I'll dry them all with my heat tool, and then I'm going to use that antique wax, like I said, to do the stems. And on this one, I actually think the color is neutral enough. I'm just going to add a little accent to it. I'm going to take that antique wax and I'm just going to paint in the grooves of that pumpkin, the dark taupey one, to give it that depth that's kind of like contouring in the crevices, if you will. And then I'm going to do the little pumpkin that I painted plaster. I'm going to use the cashew, and the pumpkin that was already kind of that cashew color, I'm going to use the plaster as my defining color on it. And then on the gourd, I'm going to use a little bit of the plaster just to give it some accents. So you can see what I'm doing here. I'm kind of alternating the colors with each pumpkin. I'm going to take the 4 little pumpkin scatter pieces that are white, and I'm going to turn them into wheels, and I'm going to sand down this cart so it makes it look a little more aged and smooth. And I'm going to take my ink Waverly chalk paint, and I'm going to paint the back and front of each of those little, we'll call them wheels now. And then I'm going to get a little piece from the back of last year's Farmers Market calendar. Super cute little sign, and I'm going to use my adhesive from the Dollar Tree and just put that right on the side. I'm going to take my brayer and I'm going to smooth it down. Take a little bit of jute twine, and I'm just going to wrap it around the little sign to give it a finished look. Super easy using hot glue. Then I'm going to take a white marker from Arteza and I'm just going to color in the center of the wheels. I'm going to hot glue the wheels right onto the bottom of the cart. Now, I don't need to use E6000 or anything. This isn't going anywhere. Of course, use whatever adhesive that you're most comfortable with. And then I'm going to cut up some of the hula skirt from the Dollar Tree, assemble the pumpkins just till they look cute, and put in the pine cones. Then my little cart is all set. Then I found these mini scoops. There's 3 in a package for $1.99 at Hobby Lobby. I'm going to take one, and it just so happens it fits between the slats on the bottom of the cart perfectly. I was like, oh my gosh, because I was looking for something to use as a little, handle on the wagon. I'm going to paint that fawn color and just paint the end of it in the ink color chalk paint. And then I'm going to hot glue it and attach it right in there. And look at that, it fits perfectly. I couldn't have planned that any better. This turned out so cute and it was so fun. Let me know what you think in the comments. This truck from the Dollar Tree and a stencil I ordered on Amazon, that Waverly cashew and fawn colored paint. I'm going to sand off that glitter. I'm also going to use some plaster chalk paint from Waverly. I'm going to cover the whole front of the truck and I do 2 coats. And I'm going to dry it in between with my heat tool that I also got from Amazon. And then I'm going to sand it again, make it nice and smooth so I can use my adhesive stencil. Now some people use these stencils with chalk paste, but I just do it with regular paint. And I just dab it on with a little foam dabber and I'm real careful about it and it seems to work fine. Now I like the super distressed look in this case, so if it doesn't come out perfect, I'm okay with that. And I used a little scraper tool to spread it around. Now I'm just going to piece this stencil because it's not quite as big as the body of the truck, and I'm loving the way this looks. I'm going for a very neutral look here, and so that cashew color really did the trick. Now the fawn is what I'm going to paint the wheel wells with and those little bumpers on the side, and then I'm going to go in with some ink color chalk paint and do the wheels. Of course they're going to be black. What else would wheels be? And so I'm going to do the little white in the center of the wheels. I'm going to touch up my paint in the wheel wells, and then I'm going to sand all the paint surfaces and just kind of dull it down a little bit because I want it to be softer. And then I'm going to sand the edges as well so that you kind of gets that distressed look to it. Now I have last year's farmer's market calendar, and in the back there's the little pictures of the calendar pages, and I'm going to cut out the locally grown. I'm going to end up getting a scrap piece of wood that I have. I'm just going to pull off the 2 sides. It's from a Dollar Tree piece that I didn't use all of it. Sand it down, and then I'm going to use the cashew paint and get my brush wet first. And then I'm going to lightly paint, almost like making a stain out of it. And just going to use my mister and then just spray that, and it'll go on really nice and light. And I'll do the front and the edges, and I don't need to do the back because that will be attached to the truck. Next, I'm going to cut a little piece of burlap, and I got that at the Dollar Tree, and I'm just cutting it, and then I'm going to fray the edges just a little bit. Use my little adhesive glue from the Dollar Tree with a nice fine point and some hot glue to make sure it stays down. And then I'm going to put my little locally grown sign right on there. Use my brayer, smooth it out, take some jute twine from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to cut 4 pieces. I'm going to hot glue them right around the edges of that little sign so that you don't see the ends of the paper, and then it just fades right into the burlap and it looks like it's part of it. I just love the way that looks. Next, I'm going to put some of my adhesive and hot glue on there, and that way I get a nice hold and put that like on the side of the truck as if it's sort of advertising what business it is. Now this is my miter shears, and it just cuts through these shims so easily, and anything that's not too thick for wood. And I'm going to make the little side panels of the back of the truck. I'm just going to do 2 across and 2 going down on either side. This is my cashew chalk paint, and I'm going to paint one of my little pumpkins that I used in a project last year and had already cut in half. I am going to take a little piece of a skewer, I'm going to snip it off and use antique wax to make it look like the pumpkin stem. I'm just going to use the antique wax to make all the stems look similar and then wipe away the excess. Now I'm going to cut this pumpkin in half the opposite direction so that you see the top of it instead of the side of it. And now I'm just going to hot glue it directly onto like the bed of the truck so it looks like it's all stacked up in there. And by the way, I made little stems with the skewer stick for all those little baby pumpkins. Now I've got this kind of wheat looking or cattails. I got some of them at Hobby Lobby on 40% off and some at Dollar Tree. And I'm just going to cut them apart and just place them around and hot glue them. Now I like to finish the back of my project, so I'm going to use my ink color chalk paint from Waverly and just paint the back. I thought with the shape it is, it'll look so much better than the craft paper. And this one's done and I love it. Let me know what you think. Hack. We're going to use the 2023 home calendar, and I'm going to use the page that says thankful, grateful, and blessed. And I got this piece for $3.49 at Hobby Lobby on 75% off. Anyway, I'm going to take my Waverly chalk paint in the color plaster. I'm just going to paint the inside to cover up what's already in there. Now I'm going to take the calendar page. I'm just going to put it over the top, kind of rub around the edges so I know exactly where to cut so that it will fit. Now, obviously, I will have to trim it a little bit once I'm done, but this is never perfect, but it gets me super close to the right size. So I'll go ahead and cut that out carefully and then check it out, do some more trimming until I get it to the size that I want. I love this piece. It's so pretty and it's got that kind of faux shiplap look too, which really goes with this frame. So you can see here, I'm just figuring out how much more I need to cut off. It takes a couple times to do that. I'm not sure why it doesn't just do it right the first time, but you know, it's probably user error. I've got my purple glue stick here and I'm just going to go ahead and get that all around the back. You could use Mod Podge, but this really does help avoid the bubbles and wrinkles. So now I'm going to set that right in there, make sure it's in the right position, and then I'm going to push it down, and then I'm going to take my brayer, and I'm also going to use that to try to get it more secure and make sure it lays very, very flat on the inside. It's very easy to do, and while it's still moist, you can move it around and kind of, stretch it from side to side to make sure it's in the position that you want it in. Nice and easy. I'm going to take some Mod Podge and just cover the top, and I use matte Mod Podge for this. I'm not looking for a shine. Once I've done that, I'm going to take this berry garland pick, or the pit berries, I guess, and I'm just going to trim off some pieces that were kind of in the way. And then what I'm going to do is mimic the berries that are actually on the picture, and I'm going to hot glue this on there. And that gives it a really cool three-dimensional feel, and I love doing that. I love making something kind of come to life. I mean, just, one-dimensional pictures are beautiful. There's nothing wrong with them, so you don't have to do this if you don't want to, but I just personally really like it. Again, to each its own. This is just for inspiration. You never have to do things exactly how I do them or with the colors or anything. This is just to give you ideas for things you can do that you like, and in the colors and the designs and the patterns and everything that goes more with your decor and what you really like. I'm going to take a couple pieces of this, attach it, and then that's all that this piece needs to be done. It already had a hanger on the back. The frame was already perfect the way it was. It was distressed. I mean, honestly, this could not be easier. I can't believe how amazing Dollar Tree calendars can turn a piece into. You have to try them if you haven't already. I love this one. Let me know what you think. For this calendar hack, I'm going to use the 2022 Farmers Market calendar. And there is a page that has these farm fresh pumpkins, and I just think they're really cute. I've also got this box my mom gave me. She embellished it. She likes bling. Can you tell? So I'm going to sand as much as I can off of that. And then I'm just going to paint the whole thing after I wipe it off. I mean, this thing, after sanding it, it was dirty. Oh my gosh, took a while. Now I'm going to remove all the little hardware on there. I actually didn't remove the hinges on the back until later. I kind of forgot about them. But I am going to take off the front pieces right now. Super easy to take off and put back on. Now I'm going to fussy cut around these pumpkins. I just wanted those two, the one with the pretty flowers on it and then kind of the brown one. So again, I'm just going to go around and cut very carefully those, because those are the ones that we're going to use for this little box. Now I'm going to take the plaster chalk paint by Waverly and I'm going to cover the entire box, get nice coats on there, and I did finally take those hinges off the back. Now we're going to take those two pumpkins, we're going to use the matte Mod Podge. I'm going to lay down the Mod Podge first on the top, then I'm going to center the pumpkins where I want them. I am going to add a stem to that other pumpkin, so don't worry. Didn't see one on there because there was another pumpkin by it, but I cut out a piece that was dark. There you go, and I'm going to add it right in and create a stem. So now I'm adding the second side of that one with the Mod Podge, and I'll lay it down, make sure it's on there really well. And now I'm going to do the two sides and make sure that they are adhered. Of course, I'll use my brayer like I usually do just to make sure it's on there well. And so there I go. I'm just going to add that right to the side, on both sides actually. Then I will put the box back together and make sure the rest of that piece of the pumpkin on both sides is adhered. Now, I haven't added the hardware back yet, but I will. I'm holding it in place. So you see how I've done that? I'm just adding both sides down with the Mod Podge because I want this to look like a continuous piece, even though we're going to cut it so we can open and close the box. And now just the little stems and the other side. Now we're going to add back the hardware, and that's very easy because the holes are still there. And you just take your screwdriver and put them right back in place where you found them. Now I'm going to take a blade and I'm just going to cut right through the pumpkin on each side so that you can open and close the box. And then I'll add a little more Mod Podge on those edges just to kind of seal them and smooth them. And I just think this is so cute. Anyway, now I'm going to take my antique wax with a rough brush. I'm going to dry brush. I'm going to take a little bit, put it on my brush, wipe most of it off, and then just kind of drag it around all the edges and different places where I want to do it. I decided to put a little bit on the sides, you know, on the other parts of the box as well, because I do like the way that that looks, and including across those pumpkins. If you're going to distress something and you have a design on it, it makes sense to distress it all. I've got some cute little berries that are fall looking, and I'm just going to add them to the top of each of the pumpkins, and I just think this is adorable. You could put all kinds of little things in there. Anyway, I think this is cute, and I hope you like it too. Let me know what you think. I love these calendar pages. They're honestly the best. Dollar Tree calendar hack, we're going to use the 2025 Count It All Joy calendar. This is brand new, and I'm so excited that I found some calendars. We're going to take the October page or the picture, and we're going to take some half beads I got from Amazon, and then we're also going to use this Dollar Tree sign that I have that was back from like Easter time. Now, I am going to take off the hanger. So I'm just going to go ahead and take my staple remover. I get that from Amazon. If you're wondering, it's really nice for these heavy duty staples. And I will smooth down the areas that had those staples with a little sanding block. I'm going to take the calendar page. Now, because you can see the words on the back, you know, the calendar, I am going to paint that round on the back side with the black chalk paint. Then I'm going to just adhere it with some spray adhesive. And I did not film that, but that's pretty self-explanatory. You could also use Mod Podge. I'll take a sanding block, go around the edges in a downward motion, and I will just remove the excess part of the calendar page. Comes off very easy, and it leaves a really nice clean edge. Now I'm going to go around the edges with that same ink Waverly chalk paint, which is basically black, just to kind of help blend the two little spots where the calendar page wasn't enough to fit over the top. So I'll just keep going over that until it's not quite as noticeable. Then where the hole where you kind of hang the calendar up, I'll put some white there and get rid of that so you won't even notice it. Now I'm going to take my half beads and I'm going to put them on like a clock. So 12, 3, 6, and 9. And this way I will get them all the way I want them. Then I put one in between each of those. And then I put one in between each of those, and then in between each of those until I get as many on there as I want. You could keep going until they're all touching, or you could leave some spaces, which is what I did this time. So you see here, I'm just dry fitting them right now so that I can see how many I need. Now I'm going to take my Maze chalk paint. I'm going to stick them to a little scrap, paper here that I use. It had some spray adhesive on it. I'm going to paint them all in the maze, and then I'll take my antique wax and dry brush them. So basically just put a little on my brush, dab most of it off, and then just, kind of dab it on the beads. I didn't want them just yellow looking. I wanted them to have a little bit of the brown on them. Now I'm going to take a black furniture marker, and you could use any kind of a black marker. I'm just going to go around that edge because it had that MDF kind of finish on it, and I did want to cover that up. Now you notice I'm not putting anything on the back. That way if you really wanted to, you could use the back side. Now I'm going to start gluing those beads on just the way I had dried fit them. Now I'm not going to show you the whole thing, but you know how I'm going to do it now. So there they are, all on there. And I did add a hanger with a little bit of hot glue and some tape, which you could remove and still use the back. I'm not going to, so I'm not worried about it. I've got these beautiful leaves. They're kind of silk-like. And then I've got some other green leaves left over from pics. Just going to put them up at the top and create a little bit of like a decor swag look. And then I've got a gorgeous sunflower that I'm going to put right in the center. I think this turned out absolutely beautiful. This would make a beautiful door hanger, but you could hang it anywhere you want. Let me know what you think. It was so easy. For this Dollar Tree calendar hack, I'm going to use the Count It All Joy calendar again, and I'm going to take the Harvest Blessings page. Now I've got this sign from the Dollar Tree. It's got 3 pieces in the woods already kind of faux planked, which I really love. It just kind of makes it easy and nice to do. I'm going to cut around just the pumpkins and the little leaves and flowers. And then I will go and I will use an X-Acto knife on a cutting mat, and I will cut a little closer. It's not going to be perfect down where the flowers and the leaves are, but I do want to get it as close to the edges, especially where the pumpkins are, as possible. You just take your time and go over them, and then you just pull the pieces off. And I do that to the whole thing, and there it is. So I used Mod Podge and adhered it. I'm going to take my brayer, roll it over the top, and just make sure it's really, really attached well. Now I'm going to take an X-Acto knife and cut through those planks because I want to keep the planks on there. Now I did get a little cut happy there, but I can fix that with a little distressing. And then I'm just going to turn it over and take anything off the edges that was left over. I'm going to add the Mod Podge over the top to make sure that it is completely sealed. And I love the way that looks. Now we're going to take some plaster chalk paint on the bottom there. I want to blend that a little bit better. So I'm going to put the chalk paint on there, and then I'm going to kind of smudge it with my fingers. And then I'm going to add a little bit of the antique wax just to blend it. And then I'll take the antique wax and I'll put it in all of the slats on all 3 of those pieces. But that's how I also cleaned up where I cut a little too much on that one pumpkin. So then I'm just going to go around and do that with all of them. Got this really pretty sunflower. Now it's a little glitzy for me with that gold in the middle, but I did figure out a way to get rid of that. So I took out the center and I just kept dabbing on it with my antique wax until most of the shine was gone. I didn't mind having a little bit because then it looks like the little seeds in the sunflower. And of course the whole flower came apart, so I'm just going to glue every piece back together, which was fine, super easy. It just went right back together. And then I will glue that center piece back into the middle, where I had taken it off. I'll go around the edges and make sure the edges also stick, not just the center. And then I'm going to glue the back on the very top of this little 3-piece hanger. I'm going to add some beautiful leaves around the sunflower. And I'm just using hot glue for all of this. You can use any kind of glue you want. I figured for this would be just fine. And then for the bottom piece, I'm just going to add some really beautiful kind of lighter leaves. I love these leaves. I'm pretty sure I got them at Walmart, and I'm almost out now, so I will have to be on the lookout for some more because I can't imagine crafting for fall without them. I'm going to add some pine cones. I believe I got those at the Dollar Tree. They're just little mini ones. All to the bottom. I just thought that looked so pretty, and a little piece of corn that I think I got at Dollar Tree also. And then I decided to add 2 of those leaves to the sunflower at the top just to tie it all together. I love this piece. It turned out so beautiful. I love using calendars. How about you? Have you used them to craft with? For this Dollar Tree calendar hack, this is such an easy one. I took from that same calendar the back little piece that, they have the little squares to show you what's in the calendar, and I cut it out and I just did some spray adhesive on the back and I adhered it to one side of this glass. Now this little glass container, I believe this was either from Dollar Tree or from IKEA, and I'm sorry, I honestly can't remember. I'm going to take some very thin twine. I'm just going to attach it with hot glue all around the edges of this little cutout. And I think that just really finishes it off very nicely. Super easy, just takes a couple minutes to do. When I get to the end and I glue on the last part, and I'm just going to cut it off, and that's the end of that. It looks so nice and it just frames it up perfectly. I love the way that looks. Now I'm just going to open up the top. I've got some fairy lights that I got from Amazon. They're my favorites. And then I've got some more of those lighter leaves. I'm going to put a bunch of the leaves inside, and then I'm going to add the fairy lights. And I just think that is such a pretty look. I'm not going to glue them down. That way, if I change my mind and I want to do something different, I can. But I thought it would look really pretty to see those lights kind of poking through the leaves. And I was very glad that I tried it because I love the way it looks. It's subtle, but it still looks so beautiful. It's amazing what you can do with those fairy lights. I mean, you can put them where they stand out alone, or you can kind of blend them in with other things. I love them, and they have such a good deal for them on Amazon. I mean, it's my favorite way to get them, and they come with batteries, and so you can't beat that. I love anything that has extras with it. I was going to glue down the fairy lights, but I decided I really didn't want to, and I kind of hid the little battery pack with some leaves. Just put the top back on, and there it is. Oh my gosh, I love it. So easy, so cute. I mean, you could do this with your kids or grandkids too. So here's a picture of it outside, and I'll show you one inside with the lights. Let me know what you think. Are you ready for more inspiration? I've got another video here I think you will really like. Click on it. I will see you there. You are truly a blessing to me. Bye.